Hi everyone. So tonight for an evening spiritual practice at home, I'm here at the home altar that we set up at the beginning of the week, and you can check Tuesday's video if you want to look at what we did to set up this little home altar. But tonight I'm gonna do a spiritual practice with you that I learned from my friend Nora about laying down what's too heavy for us to hold. So let's start by lighting our chalice. Mine, as you remember from Tuesday's video, is electronic because this is a family altar that a 4-year-old has access to. So we keep that candle safe. And if you want to participate tonight, you'll need a jar or a vase or a glass or some little container. A little box would do. And some strips of paper. Scrap paper is perfectly fine. And something to write with. So if you want to pause the video and go run and grab those things so that you can participate right along with me, that's great. I'll be here when you get back. So tonight we're going to do a sort of tangible spiritual practice, which is the kind I like best, where we make our fears, our worries, whatever heaviness is on our hearts physical by writing it down on paper. And we set it aside by putting it in this jar, right? So let's start by finding the center in us, okay? So let's start with some breath. Get comfortable wherever you're sitting or standing or kneeling, however your altar is set up or wherever you're watching this. Make yourself comfortable. Maybe elongate your spine if that's possible where you are. If that's possible in your body, make your spine nice and long. Let your shoulders creep up towards your ears and then drop down. And let your eyes and your brow furrow, your eyes clench and then soften. And take a few deep breaths here in a comfortable place. Let your eyes fall closed. And here's where we notice what it is inside of us that right now is too heavy to carry. Maybe it's anxiety about the state of the world. Maybe it's grief, preemptive grief about what's to come, or grief about recent losses or potential losses. Maybe it's worry about your grandmother or your dad who just won't stop leaving the house. Talking to you, Dad. Maybe it's feeling overwhelmed that everyone in your family is cooped up together right now, or that you're trying to do your job but it's harder than ever because you're trying to do it from a different place, or because it doesn't feel safe to go to where you work right now. Maybe it's frustration at facing all this change. Maybe it's frustration that your teacher's assigning too much homework or not enough. Maybe it's guilt that you're just not doing all these things exactly right. Now take a couple moments of silence where I can stop naming and you can start noticing what it is inside you that you'd feel lighter if you set it down. And when you've noticed, then give it name. So take your writing implement and write it down on a little scrap of paper. Whatever it is that's come up for you, give it a name and write the name down. And roll it up as tight as you feel like you want to roll that little thing up, and drop it in your jar. or your bowl or your cup or your box. Write as many as it takes to feel a little lightness. Write as many as you have to write. And roll them up and drop them in. And as you drop them in, see if you can feel that lightness. See if you can feel like you're letting go of that thing that you named just a little bit. Maybe not forever. You might have to come back and write it down tomorrow and drop it in again. You might have to come back and write it down again in an hour and drop it in again. There's no perfection in a pandemic. This isn't a practice of making us perfect. This isn't some kind of wonderful witchcraft that will make our lives whole and unbroken, right? This is a practice, and practice is something we do over and over again. So if you find yourself having to do it over and over again, then you're practicing just right. So when your jar, your bowl or cup, or wherever you're putting your too heavy things gets full, then I invite you to get rid of them in whatever way feels right to you. So maybe it's just putting them in the recycling bin. Maybe you go through and read them and notice some patterns about yourself. Maybe you never read them again and you burn them in a great big bonfire. Those are all great options, and you'll probably think of your own. Before we close tonight, and you maybe have some more writing to do when you finish watching this, let's take some deep breaths together. So if you want to pause and then finish your writing and then come back to close, that would be fine. So let's breathe. Maybe set down what it is that we don't need to carry. Maybe set down what is too heavy for us right now. And know that we cannot carry it all. We cannot do it all. We cannot fix it all. We cannot be it all. But what we can carry and do is just enough. And the rest we can set down.